Alright, so we're getting close. We got the hammer spring lined up and we got tension on it. There's a couple of different things we're going to have to do here. You can see right here is the other portion of the leg for the hammer rebound spring. What we're going to do is pull that leg up, and we are going to drop the sear in place. This spring has to fit behind the sear. So you see I've pulled it up with this little tool that I have here. My hand is in the way, but see, I've pulled it up. Now I'm going to drop the LEM sear between the LEM cocking piece / hammer and the flat spring. Okay, so now you can see right here is the other end of that leg. So you've got one resting right up against the sear, and then the other one is back against the hammer. So we've got the tension we need. This came out in the process. We are going to have to install the control latch. Go ahead and clean that off. We're going to use a new style catch, which is this longer one. You see, that's the old one, it's a shorter one. So we're going to need a longer one, and it's going to fit with the lever, the control latch. That's this hook looking piece. But you see there's a little hole here where this little notch from the catch fits in place. Now those two are going to stick together. This hole here is obviously where the pin is going to go through and hold all this stuff in place. So we're going to have to sit this down in there. Now we'll have to move this hammer a little bit to get the catch underneath there. You don't want to pull it all the way back, but you want to wiggle it enough to where it fits in place. And it's going to take a little bit of wiggling, and I'm going to use the punch to help me do so. Okay, so in order to put these guys in, like I said, we're going to use our punch, and I like to kind of line up everything before I do this. And this is another thing, just like the trigger reset spring. You'll have to wiggle this stuff a little bit. Now you'll see once we put the control latch in, we'll have to wiggle the hammer a little bit to get it to get the catch underneath the hammer. There we go. So now I'm going to have to try and line all of this stuff up. Now, a trick I've learned over the years, I got lucky there, but sometimes it's easier to use a smaller punch. This is a 1/16 punch. This is a 3/32. So 3/32 is pretty close to the size of the actual pin, but sometimes if stuff isn't lining up right, use the 1/16, and you can usually stick it in there and line stuff up. So now that we've got this all lined up, I'm going to go in from the other side and sometimes just give it a little wiggle and just be patient with it. you know, all this stuff has to fit pretty closely. Okay, so under normal circumstances, if you're just using the traditional LEM axle with no safety, we would be done at this point. But since I'm going to use this other detent plate for the safety lever, we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so in order to use the safety lever with the new detent plate, there's a couple things we're going to have to do. First, we're going to push this flush, and we're going to drop this flag and spring back down here. Now remember, if you're not using the safety lever, then you don't have to do this at all. This piece basically is useless. But we're going to put that down in there. And then I'm going to push the pin back the other way, because in order to get the lever through there, I need to take up the disconnector. You don't have to take it all the way out, but you do have to, actually I am going to take it all the way out just because it's easier. So remember that this flag here, but you'll see right here, see, that's the flag in there. So we're going to have to put some tension down there to get the lever back in there. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've got the disconnector out, I'm going to use my punch, just push it down in here. Remember, this is under tension. Okay, so see, now we've got some resistance on our lever. We put the disconnect back in. And if everything lines up correctly, man, this thing hurts my thumbs. Okay, so again, we want this flush. And now remember that this detent plate, here's another lever, but see, the detent plate is going to fit over this notch in the lever like so. So that's what we want, and that's what we're going to get here. It's just a matter of getting the detent plate matched up with that section of the lever. Okay, feels like I got it. Now you're going to have to put some tension down here because of that flag. I'm going to try and use my punch here. This part's a little tricky because I have to keep tension on it so that I can push the... Okay, there we go. So you see I got the pin through, and now we've got a working safety. So now our last step is to reattach the ambidextrous lever, and this is sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. The key here is just to make sure that everything's lined up. Actually, I like to get it started like this. Get it started like this, and then just make sure that everything is lined up. Before we start hammering at it. There we go. I like to start with a bigger one, just so that I've got a little extra surface area when I'm driving it through, and then once it's time to get flush, I use the right size. Alright, so that looks good. Alright, so now let's take a look at the end